Okay guys, here's a video which is literally just for a bit of fun, but at the same time a bit of discussion as well. But as I say, it is literally just for a bit of a laugh. So this is my top 10 gripes as regards figures in particular as opposed to kits, although I suppose it could apply to certain kits. But these are the things that kind of grind my gears, my major modelling moans, my, as I say, top 10 gripes. So number one there, as you can see, is the reboxing of old stuff. And by that I mean brands that have had ranges out for many years, even decades in some cases. They just keep boxing up the same stuff and pumping it out to the modeler or wargamer and expecting them to be satisfied with that. My major bugbear in that particular instance is Airfix. Whilst I hate to be down on Airfix or anything, considering the amount of nostalgia I might personally have attached to Airfix and all the many years of modelling I've spent with their products, at the same time they are quite guilty of that. I'm thinking in particular in the example of the Type 1, Type 2 commandos and that type of thing, which just really gets on my nerves when you know, there's stuff out there that British paratroopers at Airfix do as well, that they just keep pumping out the old stuff which is really not up to date standards. So that's kind of the first one that kind of really annoys me. Second one there, as you can see, is the same stuff with different brands. So for example, you'll find Talieri or whatever they're called and SE. I know that SK isn't in production anymore, but there are other brands again, such as Airfix and Heller and that. So you buy a box of stuff and you open it up and you think, oh yeah, great, I've got a new Africa core, to discover that it's something from years ago. If they just mentioned it on the box, you know, it might have been helpful and might have guided me to maybe making a different purchase or whatever it is. But these again are just small little things just for a bit of a laugh. Poor sculpt. Yeah, there's really no excuse for that these days, to be honest, with the advances in technology and so on and so forth. I mean, the standard within the hobby is relatively high these days, so there's really no excuse for that. I mean, there's some brands out there which just, oh my god, I just wouldn't touch them in plastic in that sense. I know you could say, well, you've got the metal option, but I prefer to work in plastic. I find it cheaper, easier to convert. As you've seen a few of my videos, I do one or two conversions, so I just find that the plastic is easier to work with. And I say from a nostalgia perspective, I like to use a lot of the older stuff and even some of the newer plastic ones. But as I say, poor sculpt, really no excuse for that these days. And as I say, from a reboxing of old stuff perspective, again, that kind of ties in with that. Box art. Well, what's wrong with box art? My problem with the box art is that, well, personally I prefer actual box art similar to the old style stuff. Now I know things have to change. Don't really like photographs on the boxes. That's just personal taste. Now, having said that, some stuff is too bad. I mean, I'm looking at the Plastic Soldier Company SDK have said 251D variants. Not bad at all, you know, in fairness. But at the same time, I prefer if the box art is actually art as opposed to a photograph. But also, and probably more importantly, that it actually represents the contents of the box. That is, you know, it actually displays what's actually in the box itself. When you're looking at things, you kind of go, oh, where's that guy, the dude with the binoculars or whatever, and just to discover that, you know, doesn't exist, was never done. That kind of annoys me too. So number 5 there is the wrong or poor weapons. So I'm thinking in terms of things like bazookas, issued to British forces. They weren't really, but yet Matchbox, Airfix and several other brands have bazookas, which they just didn't have, you know. That kind of annoys me. Now I don't mind from a perspective of conversions, that's fine, but I mean, you know, it's just be nicer if they were slightly more accurate, and perhaps even a better variance of weapons in boxes as well, you know. I mean, it'd be nice to see some slightly more unusual things dropped in there, you know, maybe I don't know, maybe the Vickers K in some British infantry, which I suppose would probably be more for LRDG and things like that, but maybe Royal Marines, but that'd still be nice too, to see a couple of bits and pieces, or even from a German army perspective, some weapons which would have been maybe Czech or Polish or French, even stuff like that, was used by various German units throughout the war, the Second World War I'm talking about here in particular. So number 6 there, no crew served weapons. I really hate it when you open a box of stuff and you decide, oh yeah, that's great, I need this for wargaming, no problem at all, and you discover, oh, I've no mortars, or I've no heavy machine gun, or whatever it is, or worse, I've no crew for the one Vickers I get or whatever it is. There's no assistant to go with it, or whatever. That really annoys me in a sense. But I mean, as I say, I can convert stuff and so can you, but at the same time it would just be nicer if there was a proper crew for these things, because these days most of us who are purchasing these kits are not children anymore, and we're using them for either wargaming or modelling or whatever. So it would be nice to have the full complement of crew for a particular weapon that's out there. Now I know that leaves a gap in the market for people like is it Hat or Armorfast, whoever, who do things like the British infantry machine gun sets and German mortar teams and stuff like that. Actually, I did a review on the German mortar team by Armorfast, so have a look at that. They're quite a good set of figures. But as I say, in the general boxings, I mean, it really does kind of get on my nerves that you don't get certain things which you really should in that sense. And I mean, I know some manufacturers like to then release another box of stuff, which is basically just gouging us for cash, but if you ask me. But hey, there you go. Poor and wasted poses coming in there at number 7. That really gets on my nerves. Casualty figures, for example. You don't really need casualty figures in a set of toy soldiers or plastic soldiers, whatever you want to call it. You can convert. I mean, 1 or 2, yeah, fine, but you know, some of them are just a bit of a wasted pose. Now, other wasted poses would include things like repetition of very basic things, like thinking of the Revel's own brand, our own release of the Africa Corps, where you get a load of guys drinking out of a cup. I know it's a desert, but seriously, how many of those guys do I actually need? I mean, it's ridiculous. There's a good 2 or 3 poses there that could have been incorporated into the set, which were wasted on that particular guy drinking. Same with the British Army. There's a couple of guys sitting there, and I was even brushing his teeth or something. You're like, really, I don't need this. This is not, you know, 1 is fine, you know, but or even a variance of those poses. 2 or 3 guys drinking in different positions, fair enough, but like, what am I supposed to do with a squad of guys who are thirsty? Not great. And there's other examples of that in the hobby, as I'm sure you're well aware. Number 8 there, inconsistent scale. Now, this kind of really appertains to some of the Airfix stuff from a few years back, but other brands are guilty of it as well. Again, not to be picking on Revell, but the Fallschirmjäger, they're German paratroopers, a couple of weird ones there, a couple of nice poses in it too, but I'm thinking of the guy with the MP40 fire from the shoulder. He's like twice or 3 times the width, and he's kind of flat and just looks a bit off, really. And you know, for the sake of it, I mean, how could you get that wrong? How could that be approved and put through production? I don't know. Again, some of the Airfix stuff, some of the stuff kind of looks like the 132 scale, and then it's like as if a different sculptor did some of the other things. You know, it's kind of time to change that, guys. I mean, I know the argument is, well, people are different sizes, you know. I mean, you know, well, you're, what am I? I'm 5'10" and I'm 15 and a half, 16 stone, you know. Well, the next guy could be, you know, 6 foot and 10 stone or whatever it is. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think consistency of scale in the hobby is sort of desirable, because it just kind of looks a bit ridiculous on the tabletop. And that's just in the one box. Obviously, within brands and that, you will have a bit of variance, and that's understandable. But at the same time, it's just something that kind of annoys me a small bit. Number 9, headgear. Right, what's wrong with headgear? Well, as I say, what gets me there is, you know, not a very good variance of headgear. For example, you know, put a bit of netting on some helmets, leave some without it. You know, don't have everyone wearing a beret or a soft comforter cap or something like that just because it denotes that particular type of soldier or that particular unit. I'm thinking, for example, in terms of the again, some Matchbox stuff, just for example, because it's what I'm most familiar with. But things like the comforter cap for the commandos or the slouch hat for the Australians, you know, these guys, they did wear, you know, helmets. So put a few on there somewhere. Now, I know I've done some conversions where I used, if you look at my NATO paratroopers video, which I converted to World War II or as close as, I put berets on all of those and painted them red. But that was just in keeping with the theme, which has been long established by toy manufacturers or plastic kit manufacturers and model figure manufacturers. So, you know, I wasn't really kind of going outside the borders there. But at the same time, you know, it would be nice that when they're actually released, that they have a little bit of variance there, a small bit. What else have we got here? So number 10, pose quality and flash. All right. Again, this kind of goes back a little bit to the point there I made about wasted poses or poor poses, but the quality of the poses as regards being anatomically correct or just basically looking like a human being. Sometimes you'd see guys, throwing grenades or whatever, and you're kind of going, "There's no way that thing's going to land 3 feet in front of him," or various just unrealistic poses. That kind of annoys me a small little bit. There's several examples of that out there. I'm sure you're more aware of them yourselves. Flash. I mean, seriously, Flash in 2018. I mean, that's ridiculous. You're not cleaning molds. You're not just retool them or whatever. I mean, it couldn't be that hard. So look, at the end of the day, that's my kind of top 10 gripes, modelling moans, whatever you want to call it. And as I say, it is just for a laugh. I mean, they're not things that keep me awake at night, but I'd be interested to see what you guys are annoyed by in the hobby. Just for the fun of it, as I say, I don't think any of the manufacturers are going to pay too much heed to whatever grumblings we get up to in the comment section of YouTube. But at the same time, look, it's just nice to let off a bit of steam or whatever. And as I say, this is just for fun. And I mean, I'm not being down on particular brands. I'm just using them as examples. Most brands are guilty of something. So from that perspective, look, have a look at the old video, like and subscribe, have a look at my other stuff, and drop a line in the comments or two. You don't have to give your top 10, you can give your top 1, top 2, top 3, top 5, whatever. If you do want to wax lyrical and really let off some steam, give me your top 20. Anything for discussion's sake, it's just a bit of fun. So that's it, that's my top 10 gripes to do with the hobby. Let me know how you feel about it, guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, take care, bye-bye.